This conference will now be recorded.
So I want to welcome Leanne to the table. As I mentioned, she has a background in social work and has worked with parents for very many years. Specializes with those with learning disabilities, and Leanne herself, I'm sure she'll share, also comes from a background of having a learning disability and how she overcame that as well. But as I've said to the group, and forgive me, group, for repeating, but we're now on record. It's tough with COVID that our kids are in front of screens for school, in front of screens for play, in front of some sort of device to talk with their friends, and we're losing our senses. We're becoming lazy, unmotivated. It's very difficult, and it's understandable because that's what devices do. They create different pathways in the brain that are actually not healthy. So Leanne's here to help answer our questions on how can we create a routine. Is that the answer? Because I find that when my life and my family's on a schedule, it feels like there's sanity. So Leanne, I appreciate you being with us today. So what would you say, with how is it possible that kids are in school on the computer, kids use the computer for play, kids use the computer or a device to talk to their friends? So like these things all seem like, how can we break this? Like it doesn't seem possible to break. So with kids doing school from home, like what can we do? What can we do? And is that okay?
So right now, with everybody doing online learning, and there is different types of platforms for everybody to do meetings and communicating. Kids are still in class online. Some kids have piano lessons online. There's a lot of online stuff that they have to get through a day. So media and being online really has a big part of their day. So for me, I have a 17. Well, she's almost 17. I have a child that's almost 15 and one that is turning 5. So I have 3 children in 3 different stages of life, and they all have to find a way to get their school done online. And they're all in different meetings that they have to do throughout the week, whether it's basketball online or their Bible study online and stuff like that. So there's a lot of being online for a lot of these children. And number one is balancing that, right? And how do we balance that? You talked about it at the beginning, is setting a routine. So one of the things that me and my husband did at the beginning of this COVID, when it first hit and everybody was locked down, everybody had to do online schooling, was sit down and talk to our kids of how that's going to look like. It was hard because a lot of their friends, they got to watch movies late at night. They got to go to bed at any time they wanted to. They were waking up late. And so it was just focusing on what we're going to do in our house to get through this time of online schooling. And so we sat down right away when it first happened, and we explained that we're going to have to stay with our regular routine. So the same time my kids wake up to go to school and to catch the bus was the same time that they were going to still wake up, get ready. It would be a leisurely time because no one's catching a bus, but their school was still starting at 7:45 or 8:15 online. So they still had to manage to make those times happen. And so, at the beginning, they were really pushing back, saying, why can't I sleep in? I can just be in my pajamas on my bed. I don't have to put the audio on. Nobody needs to see that I'm in my pajamas. And so we had to have those conversations and just talk about like our health and our well-being. Really, it helps us to get ready, take a shower, put on new clothes, not stay in our bed. It helps us feel better, and we're able to like accomplish more than to sit in our pajamas, sit on our bed, not really have any structure, and they noticed it from day one. They felt better. They noticed that days that they were staying in their pajamas and not waking up on time, they didn't feel good, and they felt groggy, and they felt like there was no purpose that day, and they didn't feel good. So they notice the difference, and that's one of the things. I talked to many parents. I was a preschool teacher for about 8.5 years, so parents still call me regularly to talk about how do you get your kids to through this time. And that was one of my go-tos, is stay with the routine. It's really, really important. And those routines kind of look like, focusing on the night before. So that's one of the things that Carolyn talked about just earlier, is planning our day, our night out well so that our mornings are successful, was key for my family to be successful with this online learning. So it actually helps for parents that are also working from home and having to deal with all of that. Getting our kids to still pack our lunches. My son is, in kindergarten, and we still get him to talk about what goes in his lunch bag, what is he having for lunch, what his snacks look like, and he still packs it. My daughters still pack their lunches the night before, put it in the fridge so they don't have to think about it. So when they have those breaks, they're not looking in the kitchen saying, oh, what do I have to eat? I only have 15 minutes before my next class. And those really help them, because then they can grab whatever it is that they made, stick it in the microwave or the toaster oven, or just, eat it right out of the fridge. It's already pre-made for them or prepped for them that they did the night before, and they can sit outside or go for a walk and have those 15 minutes or half an hour outside. And that's number 2, is getting that fresh air. And, kids have recess at school, and staying with those routines was really important to us. So encouraging our kids to still stay on that recess routine, still stay on that outdoor time. So if you are in an apartment building and you don't get to go out, have your lunch on the balcony. If you don't have much of a backyard, sit out on the patio or something. If you can get out and go for a walk, maybe walk the dog before your next class, that is a really good idea. So our kids were able to do that because their lunches are already pre-made, and they don't waste their time trying to cook something or make something or figure out what they're going to eat. They can quickly get that done, eat up, and then take that time to go for a walk or walk the dog, or maybe sit outside and have that lunch and just relax and do that. So that was one of the things we talked about. Setting their alarm clock is a really good idea. Having them set their alarm clock, waking up at time, instead of just hoping that the kids are going to wake up, or putting the stress on a parent to have to wake up their children. So that's a really good tool, is making sure all ages, everybody that has school, has an alarm clock, sets that alarm clock the night before, make sure that it's working. Younger children, maybe they have to pick out their clothes the night before. Older children, making sure that they know the routine of, getting up, taking a shower, getting some new clothes on, not staying in their pajamas, makes you feel good. Making sure that you are packing your lunch or getting it ready the night before, and you can still do that with breakfast. I know that my kids, they make pancakes or oatmeal in the crock pot the night before so that they don't have to think about breakfast in the morning. That was another really great idea that we had when they were younger to do, because they had to catch the bus really early. And so they still do that during this COVID time. And then just making sure that they're setting those times that if their class goes a little bit longer, that they're still monitoring how many times they go outside. And so, for my 16-year-old that's turning 17, she is always getting outside, going for a walk or going for a bike ride before her next class, because she notices the difference from not getting fresh air. And so those are types of things that really help us with this lockdown and monitoring how long that they're on these devices. Because when you're sitting on a device and you're waiting that 15 minutes and you're eating your lunch, watching the screen until your next class, that's not healthy either. So taking those breaks away from there, going outside, sitting outside, having your lunch or your breakfast out there, that really helps.
Okay, those are fantastic suggestions. And I know that even before COVID, with your wisdom, I had done this for my kids through the summer breaks because both parents are working. My kids are old enough to be home now, so this was, even up until last year, my son's 15 at home. And it's just like there's no school. He's not working. Like, what is he doing at home all day? He is on the computer. So this is very valuable information because no matter how old your child is, and I guess unless they're over 18, but you might still have to give some motivation to someone who's over 18. But I just feel like as long as they're in my house, you've got to follow, some sort of scheduled routine. But this is important because when your child is at home, and if they're old enough to be unsupervised and you're not working from home to say, Johnny, it's 2:30, school finished, what do we do first? It's outside time. Then you come back inside. And we are allowed in COVID to be outside. Now, granted, yes, we can't pick up the ball and play with friends, but maybe they jog around the building or run around the block or just get on their bike and go out for 10 minutes and come back in, or their scooter or something. But we have to get fresh air. Doug Ford even said that. So it is very important as a nutritionist, just to tell you that we need that oxygen in the brain in order to function, think, learn, and even sleep. Now, here's one tip that I would suggest for you is if you're not at home, and there should be some accountability, is that what I would do with my son is call me every time you're about to go outside. And I need those 2 calls a day. I need that call at 11 o'clock and I need that call at 3 o'clock. And you call me when you get home. So that can also work. But Leanne, I think some of the suggestions that you're sharing, forget about the kids. Does any of this apply to me as a parent working from home to keep my sanity, as far as, we're in front of a screen for those that are working from home all day long. I mean, how can we make, as parents, the more sane that I am, the more sane I'll be with my kids. So any suggestions along these same lines for parents that are working from home all day long and then their kids are also on the computer?
Right. So my husband worked for 11 years from home. And so his first year, he decided to do his own thing. And that was really difficult for him. He noticed that, he was getting out of bed and right onto the computer, and not really scheduling his lunch and not really scheduling anything like that. And just going full force in his work, and he would work so many hours after work hours because it was accessible and available to him. And he was noticing he was getting depressed because everything was about work all the time. And so I explained to him that he had to do the same thing that our kids do, which was really getting ourselves ready and setting those times. So like, my husband was working from home and he still packed his lunch. He still got himself and figured out what he was going to have for breakfast and lunch and those types of things. But one of the things that I get calls all the time is for parents that are working from home and their kids are home and they have young children. So they have nobody older. I have an older child that helps me with my youngest, but I have many parents that I talk to that have only younger children and they're working from home and trying to juggle that. And so doing those routines that I explained before, where you're pre-planning your day the night before, really does help and has helped so many parents, because they're not thinking about, okay, stop, I have to now make lunch, or I have to get you guys breakfast before I go on my Zoom call. But planning those things ahead of time gets the kids ready and prepared, and their mindset ready that, especially younger ones, they can tell time by routine. So getting them through the routine of like, okay, well, I'm going online now and you're doing your school time, and keeping it consistent with that happens right after breakfast and after we put the dishes away. That's how 4-year-olds tell time. They know that by what is their routine activity. And I know this by 8 years of working in a daycare. 3-year-olds can tell exactly what time mommy's coming to pick them up, or grandma's coming, or exactly what time we're going out for recess. Not that they know time and not that they can tell time, but it's the same routine all the time. And that really helps them be confident, and it helps them understand what is next to do. So, staying with the routine as best as you can really helps you get focused and do your work. And that way you can stop yourself and say, you know what? No, I need a break. And this is the time I have to have lunch. And this is my break time. And you don't spend that time making the food, because it should be already prepared somehow, whether it's prepped or whether it's already made. Really gets you to spend time, that way. So you can have 15 minutes leisure time to, like, play Jenga or hide and seek for 5 minutes, because your lunch didn't take long. And so it can get those times to spend, so you get sanity. And they get that time with you, and you don't feel like every 5 minutes all you're saying is, hold on, mommy's on a call, or hold on, daddy's on a call. So really getting your routines packed and down packed and staying within those routines help with children that have learning disabilities, help with children that are really young and can't understand time and valuable accountability of, mom has to go on a call or dad has to go on a call, but getting them to understand, oh, this is the time I have to do this, because this is my time for online schooling and this is mommy or daddy's time for working. So I can't stress enough routines and how they play a huge factor in just having that sanity through these online times where you're working. So those are number one. I have a few tools that will help, that I'll discuss after. But those are the best solutions I have, is staying within a routine, communicating, being open and communicating with your kids of how we're going to do this, especially if you have no routine, and just talk to them about starting a routine and how we're going to do that, by showing them the checklist, showing them what we're going to do the night before, so that we can have a successful day tomorrow.
Right. And I know this sounds like a little bit, quote unquote, elementary, but honestly, if your kid is over 13 years old or 16 or, 14 or whatever, it still works. For me and my son, this past summer, I just got him just a regular sort of dollar store book. And we just wrote in the front, he made his own personal goals. And then we just talked about how we're going to achieve those goals, which we could talk about another time. And then the third page was, what is your schedule? Okay, you're on the computer for this time to this time, then you're outside from this time to this time, and then chores from this time to this time. So, and choosing those things the night before, the food is so important. And if I can just add to that, I think those who are listening, it's very important that you involve the children and ask them if they're too young to kind of do it themselves. But we used to have like a physical whiteboard on the kitchen table, where they chose their lunch, their breakfast. And I think this is important, because if your kids go to sleep and you say, okay, tomorrow we're having bean salad or pasta for lunch, and we're having oatmeal for breakfast, Johnny wakes up and Sarah wakes up, and then there's a big fight because Johnny says, I don't want oatmeal. And then, you can't get on your Zoom call because Johnny didn't want oatmeal. Well, you didn't really ask him. And I understand that you're the parent, But if you want to just lose that fight, get everyone to choose, what would you like for breakfast tomorrow? I want, corn flakes. Well, oh, look, all we have is oatmeal. Is it okay to have oatmeal? Okay, I'll have oatmeal. Mom, if you promise to put 2 marshmallows on it. Okay, that's a deal. 2 marshmallows on your oatmeal, right? It is a deal. And I'm the nutritionist. But if that's what makes Johnny eat his oatmeal, I mean, baby marshmallows. Anyway, I'm just saying that then there's no fight when he wakes up. He won't cry about the oatmeal because you've already talked about it. And the same thing when lunch comes, it's like there's no surprise that it's bean salad with your favorite pasta, but they already know about it. So I think that too just takes the whole fight out of everything and just makes that easier transition. And then finally, as you're talking about that, I think even dinner being planned, and I always tell my clients, don't think you have to make a new dinner every day. It's totally fine to have leftovers and you add something to it, but planning dinners is also important because you don't have time. I highly recommend you take like maybe a Sunday, plan out your dinners for the entire week, get your groceries for all those dinners, and then involve your kids in that. Again, there's so many parenting topics that we can discuss, and we'll do that later on. I want to leave some time for questions and for Leanne to share the rules. But I also think as she's talking about that scheduling time, it's important, especially if you're a parent who's working from home and you have kids young or old that are also at home. And even if you're not, that you also schedule a little bit of a family time. So everybody knows that at 6 o'clock, we're all coming together to play checkers, or we're all going outside to walk the dog, or just to go on a family walk. But and you can't have a meeting at that time. You can't have a call come in at that time, even if it's your great grandmother. You've promised that time to your kids, and you should absolutely give it to them. So I think scheduling, or especially if you have little kids, promising them that 4 o'clock, when I'm done my call, we're going to go and we're going to play Candyland or something like that. So it gives kids something to look forward to. And like Leanne said, if they're too young to tell time, they will know, no, I told you when my Zoom call's done, we're going to do it. And that's 4 o'clock. So I think that's important. So, and if anybody has any questions, I know we're a small group tonight, but if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat now. I want to turn it back to Leanne to just share some of those tools with the group as to how can we make this practical.
So one of those tools Carolyn mentioned is having, like, for us, since the kids were very young, we have a huge erase peel and stick calendar that goes on our fridge, and we've moved it up as the kids got taller, obviously, but it sits on my fridge from the time that they were in kindergarten, my youngest, until now. She's 17 and I still have the same calendar. It is a wonderful calendar. It fills my whole fridge, and it helps us stay in routine. So sometimes whether it's I have a Zoom call or anything like that, they put it on there. I just check it now, but with my youngest, me and my husband make sure that, like, he remembers. He says, oh, the teacher said there's no school on Tuesday, or it's a break on Tuesday or whatever. And so my husband will go and show him exactly where Tuesday is on the calendar, and he, will scribble something or write something, and we'll help him to do that. And that really teaches them to be responsible and accountable at 4 years old. So making a visible calendar, or having one available in a main room. So for us, it's our kitchen that everybody is always in. That was one of the biggest tools that helped us from day one when we had children. Another tool that helps, that Carolyn talks about, is I make a checklist. Each one has a checklist of what they have to do the night before. So setting their alarm clock, picking out their clothes, to picking out their lunch and their breakfast, what they're going to have the next day. When they were younger, I had one of my children has OCD, so she has to try on her clothes the night before because she gets really frustrated with putting it on the same day, and then she'll say, you know, the socks bother me or this. So just each child is different. So, you know, applying these lists and these checklists according to how your children work and how they function and what is best for them. I deal with many children with autism and OCD and behavioral issues, ADHD. And so these checklists comes in handy. All children are able to work well when you stay within a routine and you help them to be organized. It benefits everybody, even non-verbal children. Just getting them in a routine. This really helps, and giving visuals. So flashcards, whatever works for that child, do those things. It helps to prepare them. Another really good tool that we don't talk about was school is going to come to an end, and this was a really helpful tool for me. I have a 4-year-old that's very inquisitive, loves to ask questions. So when school ends, I don't know what to do with him because he still wants to learn and he still wants to be in school. And so we have to, you know, help to keep that mind engaged. And this was a really helpful tool. I thought about it one night and I was like, this is what we're going to do for sure, is just a dollar store dry erase board. I don't know if you guys can see this, but every night he asks a question and it says, I want to learn what I want to learn today. So what we do is we just have this dry erase board that goes in his room. And before he goes to bed, he writes, we will help him, but now he can write. But he writes down, so one day he just said, I want to learn about how grapes are made, how grape juice is made. And so all day we found books on it. We, you know, saw like 5-second YouTube channel of them making grape juice. Then we tried to do an experiment that was like literally at lunchtime for 5 seconds of squeezing the grapes and seeing if we can make our own grape juice. So that was a really good, helpful tip that I developed that really helped me get him still in the mode of school, learning, and being creative with him. And it just progressed throughout the day. And so he was still learning, it was still fun, and we were able to get through the day without me feeling like I'm going to pull out my hair, because he's so inquisitive and wants to learn things and wants to do things. So that, just picking one topic and going without that throughout the day really helped me get through once school ended, and now we're going into the summer. Another really great tool is all of my kids ended up having the headache because they were on their screens. And so one of those things that can really help, that helped my children, is I told them when they're online and they're on their laptop, put it like, so one of my kids does online in the dining room. So she sits on one side of the dining room and her laptop is on the other side and it's kind of turned. And she just puts it on where they can't, they're just on audio, so she can hear them, but she doesn't have to sit and listen, but she can do her work. So she's not always looking at a screen. And that really does help her a lot. Both my kids do that. And they've already communicated this with the teachers. The teachers actually, my second daughter, her teacher has been telling the kids to do that so that they're not constantly on the screen. They don't have to visually be there on the camera, except in the morning when they just say, hello, I'm here, and before they leave for their break. But other than that, they can do their work and just listen to the class. And that helps to not always be directly on the screen. Another thing that helps with my youngest, who has to be on the screen, is these blue light glasses. So it really helps with the headaches. So he puts it on, and we noticed, we got it for all of our children, and the headaches went away. It really did help, and we just ordered these online, and that helped them a lot because all of them were getting headaches whenever they were on their screen.
Nice.
So these were helpful tools that we've done to help them out. And again, number one is making sure your kids are not staying in their pajamas and getting dressed, feeling good, eating on a regular routine, and getting out there, outside.
Excellent. So, Leanne, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Mostly everybody wants to see the calendar on your fridge. But
Okay.
can you just, before we just take a few the questions, can you tell us what should our night before rules checklist look like? Like what should be on that checklist? If we're going to create a checklist, and folks, those listening, I just want you to know that these aren't like, you don't have to go out and spend $1 million or even $50 getting these tools, simple dollar store things. That I made my checklist just on my computer, and I got a picture frame in it. I don't care if it looked ugly, but it sat in my kitchen right in the middle. But Leanne, what things for school age children should be on that checklist so that they're, and just so everyone's getting this, the kids are, they have a checklist time, or we would call it a night before rules time, whether that's 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock, depends what time the kids go to bed, but a couple hours before bed. So they're looking at this night before rules checklist so that they're prepared for the next day. So what should be on that checklist?
So we have the night before checklist, and that one is literally on our fridge. Now it moves into the girls' room because they're much older, but that was on our fridge when they were a little bit younger, so that I could see it too. So that checklist is the night before is, let me know, put on the calendar anything that I need to know for the week or that night before. So checking on the calendar what needs to be on there. So whether it's, there's no school on Friday, or whether it's gym is outside for 2 hours, whatever it is, those things have to be on that checklist. So planning out our calendar for the night before. When they're in school, it could be library day, it could be packing our gym bag, those type of things. The second thing is setting the alarm clock the night before, making sure it works, making sure it's set for the right time, and double checking it. That's a big one, is the alarm clock. What my husband has done is put batteries in it and has it plugged in so that if there is a blackout, the alarm clock still goes. And that I didn't even know that all alarm clocks still have that. So putting in batteries and checking it and all of that stuff is really important. The other thing that needs to go on that checklist is figuring out what you're having for breakfast and packing your lunch. And we do that. We should do that as adults, and it really helps the kids. Not everybody wants to do it. Now, everybody's on board every single night, but that is number one, is making sure we know what we're having for breakfast and making sure our lunch is packed or prepped now that they're at home. I still encourage you, if you have the ability to, is pack those lunches, have them pack those lunches the night before. It's so much easier, and it helps you feel better and gives you more time. And then the other thing that needs to be on that is making sure that all the things that you need for that next day, so the laptop, the work that you need to do, the textbooks, all of that stuff is ready for you in the morning. So, the running around and looking for that, where's my textbook in the morning when your class is in 15 seconds, is not a good idea, and it doesn't make you feel good. So packing those stuff and getting them ready and situated wherever it is you're going to be, if it's the dining room, kitchen, even for work, if that's the case, getting everything aligned for you to have a successful morning. So checking all your belongings. If you're actually in school, I would say packing your bag the night, like your backpack for school, so you can just grab it and go and stick in your lunch bag. Being at home, it's getting everything ready and situated where you're going to be working. And then for younger children, my son still picks out his clothes. He's 4 years old. He picks out his clothes, puts it on the end of his bed, and he feels good about that. And it's not a fight in the morning while my husband's getting ready for work. I'm already at work. And my husband says he's so good. Like, he just gets himself ready. He comes in, brushes his teeth, washes, takes a shower, and gets on his clothes. And my husband is like, he's already ready to go downstairs for breakfast. Like, he feels so good about it. And he's like, I don't need any help. And so doing those things the night before gives him the confidence to have a successful morning. And those are things that need to be on that checklist the night before. In the morning, we have a checklist that my kids make sure that they're getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed. And my middle, she has to walk the neighbor's dog. That's part of her routine. And so those things have to go on her morning routine. So some people have animals you have to feed or walk or whatever. So those things go on there. We do like our devotional, those things go on in the morning. And just getting ourselves ready and all the things that we have to do. And our morning routine is so short now because our night before rules helped to ease our morning routine. And so
Nice.
having those 2 checklists really helps. Yes, your night before rules is a little bit intense, but it, again, if my 4-year-old can do it successfully, I'm sure a 14 and a 13-year-old can do it.
Right. And you have so much more time in the evening. And a couple of things that, and I know as you're talking that may not have also been said, is that you're also making sure the night before that homework is signed off, homework is completed, homework is never done in the morning. That's a no-no. And then also when kids do go back to school, yes, picking out your clothes is important, but kids should be in the habit of checking the weather. They need to know what the weather is, so they need to know how to choose their clothes the next day. So, and I know I'm saying these because Leanne told me to put these things on my checklist. So just a few things that were missed. So Leanne, that's fantastic. I'm just going to quickly go to the chat. So people would like to see your calendar. And Sarah Grace, it's the glasses that she got online. So just a couple questions. With regards to extracurricular activities, do you feel it's important to continue to have the kids in these online activities? So like if kids are in basketball or in jazz, now they're doing them online. And it just seems like everything's online and that's like also not healthy. So what's your take for, because I'm hearing that your daughter's doing basketball online, like, do you think that this is Sarah Grace? It was blue. I think you came in right when she was talking about. Leanne, can you just show the glasses for Sarah Grace? I know I'm kind of going back and forth. What are
Sorry,
they called?
they're blue light glasses. You can buy
Blue
them
light
anywhere.
glasses.
Yeah, you can
Okay,
buy them
it's for this
anywhere.
screen. It's just for this screen. You can get them anywhere. So just going back to Jennifer's question is, what do you think about extracurricular activities online? Is this valuable?
For my each one of my kids are different. So my oldest didn't want to stop the basketball. So really basketball online is exercising. And so I think that is valuable for her. So she just does these Zoom exercises. So they send all the different routines, dribbling the ball for 15 minutes or whatever. So she does this online outside on our, driveway, and she practices that. It's once a week, and it's just exercising. It's just doing the same skills so you don't lose it. We took all of our kids out of any type of, they were in Kumon online, and we took them all out as soon as well, they were in Kumon, and as soon as it went online, we decided to pull out of all of those extracurricular activities because they didn't need to be on the screen all the time. But if you want your kids in piano and all that stuff, as long as they're not online all the time, you have to monitor that. So, my son, he wants piano lessons really badly. And so we're trying to figure out this is not the right time to do it because he's in school. But maybe in the summer when he's not in school and there's no online classes, that might be an okay thing to start doing. So I think it's what is best for your family. I don't think everything you should be putting online. My daughter has each one of them have one thing. So my middle daughter has Bible study online. I don't see a problem with it. It's only 30 minutes, and it's the Bible study that she really wants to do. Other than that, I don't think there's a need to put your kids on all these activities online, if that answers your question. But I think you can monitor how much and what is best for their social experience.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing is that if the online program gets you to be physical or do something else other than sitting in front of the computer, it could be beneficial. So, say you have an online drawing class where you can actually, you've got a pencil and you're drawing, or you have a piano and you're playing, or you're doing the trumpet, or you're outside dribbling or practicing your volleys, then those things are valuable. But if it's sitting and watching again, that's where it becomes an issue. So here's the question of the day. You've created your checklist. You have, talked to the family about their schedule. Everybody knows when it's chore time, when it's outside time, when it's computer time, when it's device time. You've got, as Jennifer had mentioned, we have got an 9, 11, and 14-year-old. We are both familiar with those ages. And you come home and the chore's not done. Or they never called you for their outside time. Or, so they were supposed to go outside twice that day. They didn't even go once. You come home, they're in front of the computer, the dishes are still not done, and they didn't do any outside time. What are appropriate consequences for kids this age?
Uh, and the ages are 9, 11, and
14.
14. Oh, those are great ages. Um, so because there are so many consequences that can follow. Uh, for us, number one is communication. So we literally have every night my kids now come into my room before they all, um, get ready for bed, or at the end of the day, they always come in and talk to us, and that's the perfect opportunity for us to sit down and just say to them, it's a casual conversation. Sometimes it's not a huge family meeting, and sometimes it's one-on-one. But having those times to talk to them about how the day went, and explaining to them the effect of them not doing those dishes or them not doing their chores, and how that played out for everybody in the household. Those ages that you mentioned can grasp that, can understand how that can affect everybody. So, I mean, I myself have older kids that when I get home, everybody has chores to do throughout the day, and I've come home and those chores are not done. And so instead of me yelling and screaming at them, I just call them down and I say, what's going on here? What should have happened? And how are we going to fix this? And so sometimes they might whine and say, well, I have so much work to do. So number one, I always say, then what should you have done, in the sense of, if you couldn't complete your task, if you couldn't do the chore that you were supposed to do, we've already talked that they should switch the day with their sibling, or call me ahead of time and say, Mom, can you do the dishes and I will do this for you, or whatever, but never leaving it for me to come home to find that it was not done. And that has really helped my family, where everyone is communicating and everybody is working as a team. So that's not a consequence right now, but what it is just to try to plan ahead so those things don't happen. And that has helped us. So my daughter has called me and said, I'm studying for my big midterm, and I know it's my dishes day tomorrow, but Mom, can you help me out? And I say, yes, I'll do your dishes today, because I do the dishes on Saturday. So I say, then you switch with me on the day. And thank you for letting me know ahead of time. And that kind of helps with there's no upset. I'm not frustrated because I knew ahead of time. But the consequences that can take place is really, for us, what we do when there was nobody following suit of their dishes or whatever, is what me and my husband and my kids have all agreed on, and that works for my family, is if they didn't do their dishes when they were supposed to, they do it for that whole week. They do it because it affected everyone in the family. So they have to do the dishes for that whole week, or they had to take out the trash for that whole week. And they feel the burden of having to do that. And that has changed everything. Every time when it comes to Friday, they say, I'm never going to do that again. So that has helped. Or just having them, what my husband did with my oldest is to write down an essay of how that affected everybody, and she hated that, and when she was done she felt so proud of her essay that she read it to her grandmother. So you have to just think outside the box with those things. And uh, I'm not so much about, of course, having a consequence to your action is a big one, but how to prevent those. So that's why I say to talk to them about solutions so those things don't happen in the future. And that's what is big for me is, of course, all my kids get consequences for their behavior, but trying to find a solution to the problem before it escalates.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think it's important also that there doesn't always have to be that consequence right away, but if it continues to be an ongoing problem, because, kids are people too. So sometimes it's not just because they were lazy, they genuinely got caught up with something, they weren't thinking of something, or they're just thinking about themselves, which is normal for a child. Right? They weren't thinking, my mom worked hard all day, she doesn't want to come home and see these dishes. They don't think like that. So, but like Leanne said, having that conversation helps them be like, wow, I never actually really thought that this was like really making her life miserable, and too difficult. So, I'll do better the next day. And I think too, like, it's not always taking devices away. It's not always, okay, well, then there's no computer time. But sometimes that has to happen. If this is a constant thing and it is your device or it is the computer that's constantly getting you to not do your dishes, or your chores or your bathroom or whatever it is, then as I've certainly done, with my family, is that okay? Well, this is twice now. So tomorrow, as soon as school is done, you're calling me. I know school finishes at 2 o'clock or 2:30. I want by 3:30 a picture of what my sink looks like and my kitchen looks like, because I'm not home. I want to see that those dishes are done. Then I will let you have your outside time. Then I will let you have your computer time. And if you don't want me to babysit you like this, then make sure that it's all done as according to the schedule so that I can just trust you. So sometimes you do have to babysit a little bit depending on the child, which I don't know if you would agree or disagree with me, but sometimes you have to have that communication. Okay, I did do the dishes. Here's the picture. Am I allowed to go outside now? Because sometimes parents are not home to monitor. And so there has to be some sort of communication, back and forth. Leanne, last question for you. Uh, Jennifer, Arrow stands for accountable, responsible, and organized. She's asking a lot of questions. And the book has been it's being remade. Leanne, it's called Sharp Arrow. But it's not available for purchase anymore. We sold a bunch to the Toronto District School Board, but I think we have to do some Sharp Arrow #2, because it was a fantastic book, but there definitely needs to be some revisions for this day and age. So you got to get on that, Leanne. So finally, because it is 8:30 and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, Leanne, what's your suggestion? Home with doing school online learning in the bedroom or out of the bedroom? In the living room somewhere. What's the answer there?
That's a really great question. So at the beginning of COVID, my kids were doing, for the first week, they share a room. So they were both doing their school in the bedroom. And I hated it. I hated it so much. But I let them experience that. They were still getting ready. They were still doing their night before. They were getting up, but they were doing their online learning in their bedroom. And at the end of the week, like I told you, we talk about things. I said, how do you feel about doing the work? They both said that they hated it. It feels like they're trapped indoors. And so we said, okay, we're going to, try to figure this out. So if you can at all, one of my daughters we have an office for her to do her schoolwork in the basement. And our basement is finished, so she can go in the office or go on the couch, and she does her online there in it's kind of like a living room setting. And my oldest, my middle does her online in the dining room, and then they switch. They switch during the week. So 2 or 3 days, and they just alternate. So it's just a different
Atmosphere.
environment.
Yeah.
My youngest, he does his literally at the kitchen. It's 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and again 30 minutes in the late afternoon. But we opt out of the late afternoon because he goes for bike rides and goes to the park with his grandpa. So we explained to his teacher he's not going to be online for the last part, and I think that's still okay and healthy. So I would just say that if you can be somewhere near windows, somewhere where you can feel like your atmosphere is not just a box area, then I think that's great. For others, that might be their only solution because it's noisy everywhere else. But if you can, for me, I could change the atmosphere for my kids. If you can't, not everybody has that privilege. But I don't love the bedroom to do their work. It feels boxed in. For them, it felt boxed in. They felt prisoned in their bedroom.
Yeah, and I think too, I worked from home most of my adult life, and we were in a home where my office was in my bedroom, like how your husband's was for so long. So, and I would notice that as soon as I walked into my bedroom, it wouldn't feel peaceful anymore. I remembered all the things that I had to do for work the next day. I mean, that's horrible, right? So I think for kids too, they go into their bedroom. It should be a place of calmness, of retreat, of wonderful sleeping. And if they look at their computer or look at that space that they were just at school, they're thinking of all these school things too. So that's not so healthy. So, guys, I want to thank Leanne for joining us this evening and providing such incredible, valuable information that I hope it sounds like it's been valuable to you guys as well. And yes, so we will have more of these parenting seminars at least once a month with Leanne just to talk about some other strategies because she's got a ton of them. And so I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. And if you have any further questions, you can just email the Energy Shack and I will send those off to her as well. So thank you, everybody, very much. And thank you, Leanne. And I appreciate it. We will have less computer time and more outside time, and get those checklists ready, everybody. All right. Good night. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.